This is Evolution MX. This needs to be the platform that is in place before we can take advantage of the analytics, reporting, and dashboards functionality. Now, some of you will already be familiar with this interface. For others, it'll be something quite new and different. So the purpose of today is not necessarily to introduce you to the functionality of MX other than the analytics and reporting. So we'll be able to provide subsequent webinars. They've already been pre-recorded. We'll also be scheduling some for the future, which will go through some of the more in-depth functionality specific to Evolution MX. So this is all about analytics and reporting, which is a key difference in us being able to offer to you the ability to tailor effectively your own reports and the delivery of the information to the people in your team that you wish to. Now, obviously, you've got menu access down the left-hand side within the interface. That's freely available for you to use. And within there, we will see new sections appearing for each module under the term of analytics, which is the alternative name we've got for reporting. We don't call it reporting as such because we've already got reports. Reports have been there for some time within the Evolution M system that's migrated to Evolution MX. We're talking about adding to them. So rather than confuse the issue and throw them in with reports, we've added them into their own section. So we'll be looking at that. But primarily what you can do with Evolution MX is you can create more of an impact, if you like, to deliver to the people the information that they need to see as they access the system. And that's in the form of dashboards. So dashboards are an example of you being able to tailor the information for delivery to the individual personnel in your organization in the format that you wish. So these are all configurable. I'll go into the configuration later, but this could be, for example, a director's preferred access to the system. And as such, they may choose for that to be the launch screen when they access the system. So if I just make that my home screen. Now, every time when I reload or launch into Evolution MX, it will know where I want to start because I've nominated that personally as my home screen. So it delivers to me the information that I need to see. And we're not saying it has to all be to do with purchase ledger. It could be a company-wide dashboard that you're able to configure to include the relevant bits of information from the different ledgers. Now, as well as the dashboard containing information down at the bottom, I've got examples of some shortcuts. So rather than having to rely on menu access, you could be using this as a form of shortcuts to other areas of the system to perform processing. You can also, from dashboards, launch into other dashboards. So I've got an invoice register dashboard, second from right on the top line there. If I click on that, that'll take me to a second dashboard where I've now got functionality all to do with the invoice register. Now, this is, as invoice register, this is the means of being able to deal with invoices coming to you via email from your suppliers and your subcontractors. It's not the purpose of today's webinar. That is a webinar in its own right, and we'll happily be able to share the information on that or entertain it on a one-to-one basis with you, showing exactly how you can do away with the need to having to print any emails coming in or scan them or barcode them or file them or shred them because everything is dealt with electronically. So that's a subject of another webinar. Now, within the dashboard, you've got the summary information displayed in the format that you wish, but you've also got the ability to drill into the details. So on my top 10 outstanding creditors, center right tile on the screen there, if I click on that, that will take me down to the same information, but in a different format, where it's more of a traditional report. And that allows us to be able to expand to show the details of the individual postings, summary information, and attached to that will be a copy of a document. The document in this case has come in through that invoice register functionality I just mentioned, allowing you to see exactly the invoice as it was presented to you, together with any sticky notes that you may have put on for approval or authorization or query handling purposes. Now, as I say, dashboards aren't just to do with the purchase ledger. There are some other examples I can show you. So on, for example, subcontractors, as well as providing you with information, it can also be used as a means of alerting you or reminding you of certain actions that need to be fulfilled. So here in the top left, I've got an example of the subby's insurances due. So that could be set for the next 30 days or those that have already expired or whatever your ruling or methodology may be. And if you click on the tile, you'll be taken down to then a list of the subbies who need attention in terms of chasing them on their public liability insurance details. That could equally be on verification details or anything else, skills expiry on a CSCS card or whatever it might be. With purchase orders, we can get an overview of what's happening in our order book. It's giving me graphical representations at the top of who I've been buying most stuff from, top left, and what I've been buying most of, top right, and the ability to enter orders quickly, center tile in the top, and also an outstanding orders book, basically, on those orders that are due within the next 7 days. And if I wanted to, I could drill into that to show me details on my individual order lines that are being shown, maybe filter that back and look at a particular product just by using column heading entry. That now filters it back to just show me the 37 records for that particular product, and maybe narrow it down even further and say, let's have a look at them all for a particular job. So you're able to interrogate the information that you know is there, is in the system. It's just a case of getting it in the format that you want with easy access to it and instantly displaying the results. Also across the system, just another example there on the plant. For those of you that get involved in managing your own plant and or the hiring in a third-party plant, you can get nice summary tiles relating to all the plant activity, including top left again. I've got 7 items of plant that are said to be overdue because when they were issued to site, there was an expected return date given. That's now been exceeded. Clicking on the tile will take you down and show you exactly which items of plant they are, what site they are, and what their expected return dates were to have been that have now been exceeded. So that's some examples of some dashboards that you could make use of. I'll create a company-wide dashboard later on towards the end of this, but I wanted to spend the rest of the time really going through the makeup of these dashboard tiles through the use of what we call analytics. So going into the purchase ledger, and through the analytics, I've got some examples set already via the menu. So these are purely examples of what you could achieve accessing, in this case, the purchase ledger information that's on the system. So if I go into my menu option headed purchase transaction, we'll be able to get the information in the format that we want. Now, this is the same information that we saw drilled down to from the tile on the dashboard. You've been in control of saying what the makeup of this information is, and I've chosen to group it by supplier account number and also sort it by outstanding balance order. So that's the freedom you've got to configure the reports that you want. If you prefer not to, you can right-click and you can ungroup. Okay, and we can see all of the transactions individually, again, going in the highest balance order. From there, you might want to choose to change it and say, let's sort it by account number, for example. We've also got criteria applied to this. We've got the filtering that's been used to say, I only want to see outstanding transactions. So don't show me anything that's got a balance of 0 because I don't need to see that. But equally, the transactions are there. And if you wanted a separate report to show you those, then of course you could include them. All this information that you are choosing to configure for this particular version of events is being stored on the named view that you've chosen through the drop-down. And you can either replace that with an updated version of it, or you can create your own version of that should you need to. I've also got formatting controls on here as well. So I've included a red indication to say that these transactions are on hold. So a bit like conditional formatting that you might be familiar with in Excel, you can choose to display the information more clearly and apply the rules for your own particular purposes, whether that is on hold or over 90 days old or over £5,000 or whatever it might be. Okay, using the same information here and choosing to group it differently, if I use my right click in the year period column, I could say group by year period. So now I get a chronological view of my creditors rather than necessarily by account number. If I chose to, as I say, I could save that as a new view and just call it whatever I want, say year period or something. The reason we use year period instantly, for those of you who might be curious, is it allows us to do reporting across a year end. Because if you were going from period 11 in one year to period 2 in the next, you couldn't do that because you can't go from 11 to 2. But you could go from financial year 11 to financial year 2. So it spans the year end. So that's the reason we do that. So if I were to save that, I'm choosing to save it for all users, but I could save it as a specific view for myself. And it might be that I prefer that particular version of events to be my default when I go to that menu option, as opposed to any of the other 12 or 13 options that you've got available there. Okay, going to the subcontractors, just show you a bit of makeup there. On the analytics there, I've got an example for just purely looking at subcontractor information. All the fields that are available on the screen have been selected by you. So you've got the option of being able to go in and pick and choose what you want. Using the plus icon, you're able to say, okay, these are the fields ticked so far that are already present on the screen. I might want to go and pick up other information. So if you are looking further down the screen, you could go in and pick up other information. So if we went for something like account number, maybe their bank account details, and other information such as a bank sort code, for example. So by default, the system will place those over to the far right-hand side of the screen. But if you wanted to, you could drag them over to where you prefer to see them. Something's going to make a bit more sense in the display that you want. You can resize columns if you want to, or you can take advantage of the right click there to say auto fit all columns. So the system will then work out what the premium sizing is for the different columns that you want. Okay, that allows you then to, as I say, if you wanted to save that, you could include that as a new view for bank details. Okay, if you wanted to, you could also include formatting on the data, as I said before. So the insurance due date that's being set there, I could go into the conditional formatting option here. Say I want to add a rule that's going to pick up on a particular field. Let's say it's going to be insurance due date. And we could say it's going to be equal to or less than. Lots of different criteria you can put in here. To say what it is you actually want to see. Pick up a specific date if you wanted to, or you could have it as an ever rolling so many months ago. So if you wanted to say from 9 months ago or 9 months from now, whatever it might be, that'll save you having to come in and change the criteria every time. You've got the option of being able to do that. How do you want that to be presented? So you've got a choice at the bottom here of saying, let's change the text color. Let me change that to red. Apply that then to what could be just that particular field, or you could choose to include all fields, whatever your choice may be. Save that and apply, and that will then configure it and display the information in the format you want. So you've now got a red indication to show all of those subbies where insurance needs to be considered as an issue. Again, because I've changed the purpose of that particular one, I could again save it as an alternative. Okay, make it available to all users, as I say, or just me as a particular. Save that as the option, and I could flag that to say that's my home screen. So lots of things you can do with the information that's there. We'll provide you with these examples to get you going in the first place, and you can either use them as they are, or they can be adapted by yourselves, edited, added to, or removed if there's something you're not particularly interested in. Okay, another example on purchase orders. Let's move into that area. We saw the dashboard earlier. So within purchase orders, analytics, we could look at maybe a buying history. I often get asked about this, where you need to be able to see more information about the latest price you paid for a particular product, for example. So here, my initial display is shown in supplier order, where it's grouped it by suppliers. And the reason I've got some red indications is because I've applied a conditional formatting rule on finding out where the price is different when it was invoiced from when it was ordered. So you can see the actual invoice value would be the value of the invoices matched against the purchase order versus the value of the purchase order that should have been invoiced. So you can clearly see you've got some breaching of the pricing where you've got price variances. And if you needed to or wanted to, you could expand upon any of those to look and see at the particular lines where that price had been an issue, where you see you've been invoiced, or you should have been invoiced at 480, 500 was the invoice value that came in. So that could be a useful report for you to use to highlight price differences. The same information is available. So if I were this time to say, let's ungroup it, I now might want to have a look and find what I've been spending most recently on a particular product. So let's go and browse my entire purchase order history for a particular product. Maybe sort that in date order. So if I click on it, it'll sort it into newest or oldest, depending on whether you click once or twice. So the most recent version of events is being shown as telling you that's the most recent price you've got, and you got it from Wolseley. There was a similar price a little less recently that came from a different supplier. So you've got that easy ability to be able to find exactly what you wanted. And in fact, you could then, as you saw me do earlier, you could narrow it down further with more column filtering to say, let's only show it for a particular contract number. Okay, nominal wise as well, we've got access to it from a financial point of view. So within the nominal, I've taken the advantage here of showing you how you can use analytics to not just display a single report, but you could actually use it for reports on the same screen. So I'm calling it nominal browse. What it's doing is at the bottom, it's showing me all my nominal transactions, 6,470 of them, relating to all nominals, all periods, no criteria applied to it at all. Allow me to filter and choose what I'm actually going to be showing. So at the very top, if I clicked on my cost center 02, you'll notice now the bottom section of the screen now filters and only shows the transactions relevant to cost center 02. 1,444 of them. Furthermore, I could use the center top tile to be able to filter on a particular account. So if you're looking for your material spend in cost center 02, I've now got 1,043 records. I might then at the bottom choose to say, well, let's show those chronologically. So if I go into my right click and say group by year period, I've now got that showing. Click it into oldest or newest to sort it that way. Then as I use my browse in the center, I could say, let's have a look at labor on a similar vein. So click on the labor account. We'll then see that the system now restricts that to 23 records because they are now related to the labor account. So you're not having to reconfigure the bottom section because you're in the active session. It's allowing you to stay with that to be able to browse around. And as you do browse around, you'll be able to see the information, and it already remembers you're opening that particular financial period because that's the one you're looking at. So that can be far easier than trying to use traditional methods of going into a nominal inquiry. We tend to have to go into an account at a time and expand on a period at a time. On the contract side, from the commercials point of view, we've got easy access to all of that valuable information sitting beneath the contracts. I've got my contract transactions. So that could start by showing you all of your contracts. For those of you that interrogate the data this way already, you've got the contract total cost report, which could show you all transactions from a nominated period or range of contracts and so forth. This is a quick and easy way of saying, right, here's my entire contract activity, 3,500 records across the whole board. Here, I could easily use my filtering options to say, let's have a look at the spend on a particular cost head. So that's now showing you cost head MAPD across all contracts, all dates, all periods. But if you wanted to, you could go in and you could do a date filter and say, I only want to see transactions that happened since the 1st of January. And then you can choose that as a standard report, or you could say, I want this to be my N days ago, where you could set that, or N months ago to be 9 months. So you could be your ever moving report where you're always looking at the constant, the current period of activity that you're interested in. Anywhere throughout the system, you've got the option of being able to take the information externally. So using my tools option there, I've got an export as, and it can take it directly out to Excel. So we're not leaving it in Evolution MX entirely. It is available to be taken outside at your choice. Another of the options, just to point out on this particular screen, it's more evident, is you'll notice, those of you that are of keen eye will notice that I've got a cost plus 15% column. Now, that's not a data field that's stored within inside Evolution MX. That's a calculated field that you're applying to the known data as the report is produced. And that is achieved through the field selection, but rather than an existing field, you can go into the tools option within there and say, I want a custom field. And this is where you could provide maths or formula to work out alternative additional fields. So we're saying here, take the value in the local currency, divide it by 100 and multiply it by 115. Give me my cost plus 15%. So it can be as straightforward as that. You've always got the validate option here. So if you're a bit unsure about the syntax to use, the validate option will be used and it will tell you whether it's going to work or not when the report actually comes to run. You can be more sophisticated and really go into full SQL scripts if you want to. So I've got select statements where I might want to have separate columns across in the report that are only populated depending on whether it's labor, materials, subcontractors and the like. And that can be using the select statements there. That would be more evident where you hadn't already gone through and done a selection on a particular cost head. So if we open up everything at that point, we'll see that over on the right-hand side, we've got evidence of the other fields, LO costs, SF costs, MA costs. So you can see it's populating it where it's found its materials and left it empty where it's one of the other categories. So that can be useful, saving you to do subtotaling or further formula within Excel. Okay, also as a reporting option within the contract, as an example, we've got something we call contract performance. Now this brings together information from various of the contract files, not just the costs. This is going to look at budget information, it's going to look at purchase order information, sales information as well. Something that you could achieve to some degree through the use of report generator and Evolution M, but that has limitations. You know, you need to know how to use it. You've got to be familiar with the file structures, the formula makeup and so forth. Whereas here we're saying, it's just similar to what we've seen already. You've got the plus icon, which lets you pick across the different fields. Are you looking at budget? Are you looking at cost? Are you looking at purchase order information, sales revenue? Are you performing maths on any of that? So I am indeed doing maths on here. I'm arriving at a profit margin, and that can be of your own choosing. So you can to include application values in your margin or not, as the case may be. Maybe they don't affect your turnover until you get the client certificate in. So you can exactly choose what the figures represent. I'm saying in the case where the profit margin is 0, let's give a highlight of the whole line in green. So you get immediate impact of the fact these are the jobs that are making you money. Only 3 of them might be a cause for concern, but it might be because the jobs are of nature only just started. Maybe there's a work of a particular nature that doesn't get billed right until the very end. So it might be useful information, but again, use the information wisely. Further down on the same report, you'll see that I've got red is highlighting, in my case, jobs that are over budget. So budgets can easily be recorded against your jobs. For those that don't do so, we can easily import budget information from an Excel source, whether that's come from an estimating system or whether it's just been arrived at in Excel, and it can be as summary or as detailed as you want to. So at least it's giving you an overall view of the budget on a particular contract. Further down, I've got orange, which is highlighting that this contract is nearly over budget. 90% of its budget's been used. So you've got the option of being able to bring traffic light reporting to the fore in the format that you want. Unlike other areas of the system, you have the ability to go further within this report. So on the 34 grand of actual costs you've got against contract 0737, if you click on the blue underline, you'll be able to get down to the detail. Now, you can't do that in other reporting options. You'd have to go to the contract inquiry to do that, to get access to it. Here we're saying you can see the breakdown, 10.5 grand's worth of materials has been spent. Again, you've got another further option to drill down. And as we do so now, I've chosen to summarize that information by the cost heads. So there's the cost head I was using earlier. Expand upon that, you'll be able to see all of the activity involving that cost head on this contract, including detailed information about each of the postings and including also the paperclip, which will take you across to the image of the document that was recorded at the point of posting. Okay. I've then got further out from here, I could take that information externally if I wanted to, similarly as we saw earlier. Now, one of the beauties you've got with analytics is it's browser-based, so it doesn't require a full heavy license of Evolution MX to be able to access this information. If all somebody is doing is access the analytics and the dashboard functionality with drill down, including drill down to those documents, you'll be able to do that with an MX framework license. It doesn't have to be a full processing license. It also means that whoever's doing it could be anywhere that they are with a device such as a tablet or an iPad. So it doesn't require a full heavy license or overhead in terms of hardware. Of course, if you're going to be doing any sort of posting or updating or adding or editing of information, then you would need a full license. But it's just worth knowing that you could effectively expand the portal to your individual users where they can get in and see the information they need to without either going without it or having to trouble somebody else to get it for them. Okay, I've also got dashboards in the contract. So if I choose my option here, this is to start with an overall contract summary dashboard. So this is looking at all contracts or what I've selected as my range of contracts. So it could be all contracts in a particular cost center or of a particular nature or of a particular customer. So it's summarizing all that information together and showing me the various different tiles that I've got with an ability to drill into what could be the full costs on all contracts, the order values and so forth. At the very top right, I've got an option there to be able to filter. In this case, I could say, let's filter it to be contract 0737. So that then becomes the primary contract. And now all of those tiles are filtered on the basis of the contract that we've just selected. Same style, exactly, just the content differs because we've done that filtered selection. And that allows us then to drill down into the information as we've done similarly elsewhere. Bottom right there, I'll just show you how you've got access to, in this case, contract documents. So that will fire up everything that's in the document management repository for this contract currently. And that allows us to see things such as the purchase orders. So again, you can do this through Evolution M, through the contract inquiry, but we're saying let's use it in analytics. So they're allowed to go in and access the information in the way that you want it. That could be all of the postings that have come from documents related in Evolution M processing, as well as obviously the third-party documents and things that Evolution MX itself had nothing to do with, things like photographs and drawings can easily be incorporated alongside everything else. It can be as simple and straightforward as bringing new information in using a drag and drop. So if I just go and drag and drop a new file into the screen that we've got open, it'll then say, okay, that's a a random PDF file relevant to this particular contract, maybe. Where do you want to put it? So you can then choose from your own choice of column of folder headings. You can say exactly where you want that to go. So if I put that into my photos, for example, and save it, it will then become a new entry alongside all the other documents for that particular contract. Okay, and there we are sitting alongside it. It's not just linking to that document, it's actually copied it into Evolution MX's data. So it's then available for access across the whole board for all users being able to get a hold of that information. Also in here, I've got site forms. So risk assessments, hand-arm vibration logs and the likes can be incorporated. They may be documents that you're already compiling through the use of Word or some other document system, and you're just dragging and dropping the finished result. For those of you that may be interested, and as a subject of a separate webinar, we do have a mobile forms module, which can allow the users to be published with template documents onto a handheld device, tablet, an iPad, and be able to complete that information with relevant site sign-offs, photographs, approval mechanisms, and ultimately reporting as well, reporting on the data that's been collected. So not enough time this morning to go into that in any more detail, but those of you that might be interested, please do flag that with us and we'll be able to follow that up really on an individual basis or send you a pre-recording of an earlier subject. Okay, the final thing I just wanted to do, as I said to you earlier, is just show you how you can construct your own dashboards. So if we went to a menu option of some description and said, right, at this point, I now want to put in an alternative screen to that one. So I'm going to go into Configuration Manager. You're not going to let all your users necessarily go in and be able to do this, but I could go in through here and say, right, I want at this point there to be an option for me to put in a new dashboard. So I'll just add that. Take it off, save mode, so that it's now available to me. So that starts me now with a blank dashboard. I've got options within here to go into the configuration of it, and I could give it a new title. I could change its background. I could even put an image across there if you wanted to, as your corporate identity across the back of the background. So you can choose exactly how that applies. Other than that, go into the tile selection. And at this point, we could go in and say, right, I'm going to add a new tile at this point. It's going to come from somewhere that I've already defined an analytics report. So if I went into, say, my subcontractors analytics and the subcontractor option you just saw me do earlier, I'm going to select the version of events there, which could be the insurance one that I configured with you earlier. And I'm going to say, make that rather normal size. I can make it large, or I can put my own dimensions in there. So that immediately gives me a tile of information. Adding other things on here, if I went into, I could say, right, at that position, I want something to come from somewhere completely different. So I could go in this time into the purchase ledger, maybe, go in through analytics and pick up supply balances. How do you want that information presented? Well, I could choose it rather than in table form. I could say, let's have a pie chart. And again, I can make that large. Once you've done these dashboards, they're not set in stone. You can come back and you can edit them. You can change their content. You can add to them and so forth. Just a final one there. If I just put in, let's have a look at maybe contract transactions. Go into analytics and let's call up contract transactions. Choose which version of events I want to have showing there. And again, I'll make that just for symmetry purposes. I'll make it the same dimensions as the other. Okay, so that's the dashboard created. It's now populating with relevant information, quick and easy. Give it your own title, allowing you to see the information there. If you wanted to, and you've enabled it, because I took the option to allow for drill down, then as you click into it, it'll take you down to the same information, but in your chosen drill down format. So it can be whatever you really want it to be in terms of the supplier totals. Flag that then as your default. So even though you might be sharing dashboards across different users can have different drill down results when they go to it. So that allows you to have the information tailored to suit the individual purpose or the individual person. Okay, well, that was a bit of a quick whistle-stop tour around Evolution MX, for those of you who've not seen it, specifically in the area of analytics, reporting and dashboards. I do hope you found something of use in there, and we very much like to take the opportunity to follow up with you to get some feedback as to how you think it might be suitable to your business and any questions and queries that you might have. So I'd like to thank you very much for your attendance this morning and say, hope you've found it of some use and wish you a very good day.